Unmute. Okay, well, hey kids, it's Miss Dyer. I'm trying to make all this stuff work. I'm going to do a couple of problems on this page. I'm going to try and make you a video for every page so that you can work through it, just doing the best you can. Here's the goal. The goal is for you to be ready for Algebra 1. So either Miss Loudon or Mr. Denham, whoever you have as your teacher, does not have to go back and start from scratch from some of the things that we did learn in 8th grade that also carry over into Algebra 1. Not everything does, but some things do. So we just have a few fraction problems just to make sure you're good at your basic math. So of course here, this has a negative number. So we'll work on this first. It says use common denominators here. That's only when you are adding and subtracting. So the only time you have to have your common denominators is when you add and subtract. So when we are looking at this, you'll notice that's a negative 1 2/3. So we want to make sure that we follow the correct procedure for that. So we're going to put it in fraction form first. I'm going to abbreviate that with this. Fraction form first. So it's negative. Now 3 times 1. So you notice my negative sign's here. So I'm not going to use it with my negative 1. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. So we have negative 5/3. If you did that back to a mixed number, it would be negative 1 2/3 plus 4 1/6. So when we're looking at this, remember this is an addition problem and we don't have common denominators. So we need to make sure that we're going to find a common denominator between 3 and 6. So I'm pretty sure 3 can go into 6. So we will change that by multiplying by 2 both places. And so now we're going to have negative 10 over 6 plus, I am so crazy. I actually have no sense, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and, oops, not that, and go right back here and make this 25 over 6. That's what I should have done the first time. Okay, plus 25 over 6. And that's going to give us negative 10 plus 25 is 15 over 6. And then you would simplify it for your final answer. All right, so let's look at this one. This one is a multiplication problem. And so I've got a negative 3 7/12 times a negative 6/7. So again, we're going to do fraction form first. Okay, so 12 times 3 is 36 plus 7 is 43. So we've got negative 43 over 12 times negative 6/7. Now, when you're working with this problem, this is not adding or subtracting, it's multiplying. So we do not need those common denominators. But what we can do is what we did sometimes in class is to cancel before we multiply. So let's look at this. 6 goes into 6 1 time. So now this is a negative 1. And 6 goes into 12 2 times. That makes it slightly easier. Negative 43 times negative 1 is 43. And 2 times 7 is 14. And then you would simplify that. Now the good news for you for next year is a lot of this kind of stuff, you will have a calculator for your computations. But you are going to be tested next year in Algebra 1. The first part of that test is non-calculator. So we have to be able to do some of these things without the use of a calculator. All right, so let's do this last one that we're going to go through. Again, I would want you to simplify number 3, do number 2 all by yourself, and simplify number 1. Okay, but this one, this is not a fraction, so we're going to put it in fraction form. Negative 4 over 1 divided by 3/11. Now, if you remember from the lower grades, you don't actually do this division problem. Remember, you multiply by the inverse. So we're going to have negative 4 over 1 times, see, that's multiplying, and the inverse is the reciprocal, 11 over 3. And then you would solve that. All right, let's just talk about then the next couple of problems, what to do here, because you would have these as your examples on how to work with fractions. So let's talk about what the operation would be for number 5. So Lee ran a mile in 7 1/3 minutes. His friend Sam ran the same mile in this many minutes, 8 5/9. How many minutes faster, okay? In other words, how much more than or how much less than. So this is a subtraction problem. So you would do 8 5/9 minus 7 1/3. Number 6, Holly has 45 5/16 pounds of fertilizer. If she plans to use 3/5 of the fertilizer on her front lawn, and the rest on her back lawn, how much fertilizer will she use on the back? That's another subtraction problem. Take out the stuff for the front lawn, and that's what she's going to use for the back lawn. Okay, make sure you have this written down because I have to actually erase it before I can scroll up and we can look at the bottom part of the page. All right, they're all drawings. Okay. All right, oopsie daisy. So as we get started again here, number 7, a large container contains 41 2/3 cups of lemonade. If the lemonade is to be poured into smaller cups, big being separated into smaller cups. So that's going to be a division problem. And each cup is going to hold 3 1/8 cups of lemonade. How many cups can be filled? So we know now it's a division problem. That's like number 4 at the top of the page. But let's write down how to set it up, because if you set it up incorrectly, then naturally your answer is going to be wrong. So we're going to have 41 2/3 divided by 3 1/8. So remember, you would do fraction form first, and then you would multiply by the reciprocal on that one. Okay, so now let's look. Your graphic organizer at the front. See, I put C graphic organizer. Ooh, I shouldn't have drawn that. Oh, don't do that. That has the rules for exponents on it. So let's look here. This is really important for Algebra 1. You have to be able to do this in Algebra 1. All right, so x to the negative a. Remember, it doesn't make it a negative number. It makes it a fraction. 1 over x to the a. Remember, it's not a negative number. It's the reciprocal of the base. Find the reciprocal of the base. And then let's look over here. The 0 exponent rule. Remember, everything to the 0 power equals 1. So any times to the 0 power, the answer is 1, no matter what. Just as an example then, 2 to the negative 5th equals 1 over 2 to the 5th. Notice, once you make that fraction, your exponent now is positive. And then it says simplify, which means you would multiply out 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 and find your final answer. Okay? All right, scientific notation. That's the next part. So scientific notation looks like this. A times 10 to the something power. And so to write this one, letter A in scientific notation, remember that A right here has to be between 1 and 10. I'm going to write that down. So 1 is less than equal to A, which is less than 10. All right. So to make that look like, to make this between 1 and 10, we have to make it 8.23. That's the only place you can put that decimal to make it between 1 and 10. Then we have the second part times 10. And since we moved it 2 places, it's times 10 to the second power. Just as an example, if you remember now, since we're going this way with our decimal, that's going to be a negative exponent, okay? I'll put that in parentheses here so to remind you when you're doing that. But now let's look at letter A down here under number 10. So if we want to go back to standard form, this is standard form. And so if we want to make this number look like it should in standard form, we have to move that decimal to the right that many places, 8 places. So it's going to be 4, 2, 9. But I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. I think I did that right. And so I'm going to erase that. That looks hideous. Okay, I'll try again. So I've got 4, 2, 9. Since I've got to go 8 places, I think that's an 8. Then I've got 2 here. That means I've got 6 more places. That means 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's much better. There, and that's our number. Okay, move the decimal, the number of places this says. This is a negative exponent, which means I'm not taking my decimal to the right 1 place. I'm taking it to the left 1 place. So it was here. I've got to bring it right here. And so my answer is 0.8. All right, that's enough for this page. I'm going to try, if you remember, I'm going to try and do a video for every page. I'm not going to do quite so many problems as I did on this one. It's just been a while since we've done any of this. But remember, the whole point here is to keep you thinking about math until it's technically time to be out of school. I do not want you to go into Algebra 1 completely rusty, like you haven't had 8th grade math, because that's going to be a real bummer for you next year. And so that's the whole point of this, is to just make sure that you're remembering the things that we have learned. All right, so have a good day, and until next time.